The Philadelphia 76ers have revealed a bit of their game plan regarding their management of new addition Kai Jones and the expectations for him when coming to the team. We also saw Kelly Oubre Jr. speak out a little bit on what he means his presence on the team. Of course, Kelly Oubre having the experience playing with Kai back in Charlotte last year. And we got some intriguing updates about Joel Embiid and his potential return to this team. Some positive updates that I cannot wait to get into. But before I dive fully into it, I do want to remind you guys to make sure that you are smashing that subscribe button. Appreciate it. It helps a ton right here on Sixers Digest. Keeps the channel growing, keeps the Digest family growing, and helps me out a ton here. So appreciate all you guys, and I'm ready to dive into the news today. So I'm going to start with this quote from Kelly Oubre about Kai Jones specifically, and this coming from Kai Carlin via Sixers Wire here. He writes, Kelly Oubre Jr., who played with Jones in the previous 2 seasons in Charlotte, knows exactly what he can bring to the table. Oubre claims he was a bit of a good voice of reason for his younger teammate. Quote, new energy, athleticism, versatility, but it's up to us to welcome him with open arms and let him know that, we are your family, said Oubre. You're loved, and I'm happy to have my boy back. I was definitely a good voice of reason for him over there in Charlotte, so I think that everything happens for a reason. Jones was the 19th overall pick in the 2021 NBA draft and has shown off a lot of athleticism and defensive acumen. He had 14 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 steals in Friday's wins for the Delaware Bluecoats in the G League. He will have to prove himself in a short amount of time in order to earn another deal. So I like what Kelly says here, and cool that he is kind of extending that relationship, showing that he does believe in Kai and that there is a foundation of a relationship from their previous stop. And Charlotte's an interesting situation. Now, we know that it's a little bit of a lawless land when it comes to the NBA, that there's plenty of guys there with each with their individual issues and not really the best situation for a lot of young guys. I do shout out the guys such as Brandon Miller who seem to be making the most of it, but he's also a guy that has a bit of concern. So I try not to judge too harshly. I also will point out when it comes to Kai Jones that there was just an interview with Shams Charania of The Athletic where Kai was pretty open, talking about everything, the loss of some family members that really stuck with him during this time, him learning the ins and outs of the NBA, how much the NBA lifestyle was something that he had to adjust to. And it did kind of make me reflect and think that this is a different guy than I kind of think we heard the past couple seasons and years, that the reasons he was in headlines did not seem to be like the reasons that he desired. And I think a lot of times we're a little too harsh on these guys who are 20, 21, 22 years old and still figuring out the world. Guys who a lot of times come from very little money and all of a sudden have millions of dollars dropped in their bank account. It is an adjustment, and there are different expectations and situations that come with it. And I think for Kai, that this could be a very good sign if he's a guy that gets it before it's too late, that is working to change the narrative on himself. And I would love nothing more than a redemption story to be in Philadelphia, that I am a believer in the talent, and that's something that you can't teach. And if he does have his head on straight, and this is something that he's ready to work on himself, he's ready to grow into the NBA basketball player that he has the potential to be, I have no issue with that being in Philadelphia. Now, we did have a bit of kind of some insight on the expectations during his time here, this coming from Kai Carlin as well, and he tweets out, as far as Kai Jones is concerned, Nick Nurse says the plan is for Jones to be in the G League for these 10 days and then evaluate from here. Now, this game plan I wholeheartedly disagree with. That Kai Jones is a guy, we know what he can do at the G League level. That we've seen 2 seasons of legit sample size data of how productive he can be. A guy that's pretty comfortably a 17-10 guy in terms of points and rebounds. His athleticism pops. He had 14 points and 8 rebounds in his debut down at the Bluecoats, and I really liked what I saw. But I think he fits a little bit of this model in this category of players who are too good for the G League, but we can't quite figure out what they can be in NBA terms. And that's what I'm most curious about when it comes to Kai. Is he a guy that right now can be an impact player on the Sixers team, specifically during the absence of Joel Embiid? Those are the questions that I want answered, and that's why I would prefer him kind of be thrown to the fire, given an opportunity with this Sixers team. Now, as a little asterisk next to this, it may not matter for this situation as he did leave that Blue Coast debut with a little bit of a hamstring injury. No real clarity on what the severity of that is, but that would be super disappointing for Kai and for the Sixers if this is something that keeps him out for an extended period of time. Obviously, for Kai specifically, that he's playing on a 10-day contract that every single one of these days matters, so this injury is not a good situation for him. And for the Sixers, unfortunately, they can't really afford to wait right now. They need guys that can come in and make an impact as is, and if Kai's up laying around with a hamstring injury, that would be an issue as far as for both sides of things. So hopefully it is nothing serious there. Maybe it was just tightness or cramping or something that isn't going to keep him out for a long period of time, but not a great sign there. But if he is available, I would just like to reinforce that is a guy that I would like to see thrown to the fire and see what he can do at the NBA level. I don't see the harm in that, and I understand a lot of this is having to do with where he's at mentally, what his mindset is, and all those kind of questions, but I don't think that prevents it from being found out if you do want to throw him to the fire at the NBA level. Now, with all this talk about this Sixers team, the Kai Jones, the young players, the steps that we're seeing, Kelly Oubre, all these comments, none of it really matters without the knowledge of what's going on with Joel Embiid. And for the first time in a while, it feels like we're starting to gain some traction in the positive direction. And we're starting to have an idea of what a return, how likely that is. So I do want to jump in with a couple updates here. Start with this. We have an article from ESPN here that says Joel Embiid has been reevaluated by doctors and they are, quote, happy with the progress that the 76ers center is making following meniscus surgery on his left knee. Philadelphia head coach Nick Nurse said Saturday, quote, I think there's always stages of how these things progress, Nurse said before the Sixers' 109-98 win over the Charlotte Hornets. Quote, everyone wants to know, well, how long is it going to be? And they gave a wide range because of that, because everyone heals differently. We're just trying to take it as it comes, get him healthy, and get him back when he's ready to go. Asked if he believes Embiid will be back with the team before the playoffs, Nurse was cautious. Quote, I'm still hoping so and pretty confident. Yes, the coach said. That is great news there, and really the most direct I've seen the Sixers acknowledge a potential return. There's been a lot of answers as far as just taking what the doctors say, just waiting it, taking it day by day, all those types of phrases that teams generally throw out. This, to me, is the most direct that the Sixers are acknowledging that they are hopeful for a return to the court, and that does change things from the Sixers' perspective. And to add on to that as a whole, we had an initial tweet from John Clark back on March 4th saying that I'm told Joel Embiid is still on track to return in the first or second week of April before the playoffs. He quote-tweeted his own tweet yesterday saying, good news, Joel Embiid did some work in Sixers practice today, non-contact. Joel is progressing well. And that is the biggest thing to me. The fact that he is actually on the court, even if it is non-contact, the fact that he's out there with this current Sixers team, to me, all but says the return is imminent. That this is a guy that is rapidly progressing towards stepping back on the floor. And if there was any doubt about him not coming back this season, I think it's unlikely that we're seeing this right now. That I think everyone is full throttle with the expectation and goal of bringing him back to the Sixers team. And once again, that does change everything from the Sixers perspective. But it is the fact that he is beginning practice. We also got reports from Campaign and Buddy Hield that when they were traded to the Sixers, that Joel Embiid was in the film that was sent for him, some of the play design, the sets that they're going to run, a lot of it still being built around Joel. That once again just reinforces that the intention is him coming back to the Sixers team, and that is great news. That does change things. And we did also, by the way, pass a monumental landmark for Joel Embiid that he did turn 30 this weekend. Pretty insane here that he did turn 30. In those years, an NBA player, a 7-time All-Star, an MVP, a 5-time All-NBA, 2-time scoring champion, career 27.8 points, 11.2 rebounds, 3.6 assists. One of the best players to ever put on a Sixers uniform. It is insane that he's already turning 30. I remember him, the wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, immature youngin that first came to Philadelphia, and to see him grow both as a player, as a person, starting a family here in Philadelphia, been really cool. I can't think of another player across any sport that embodies an era of that specific team than Joel Embiid and the Sixers. He is the process incarnated. He is the guy that is both from a basketball standpoint, from a personality standpoint, from a media standpoint, he's all of these things. And the Sixers could not have asked for more. As much as went wrong in the process era, and there's plenty of it between Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz, Jimmy Butler, the list goes on and on. But Joel Embiid is the thing that they got right. And it is only right if they can find a way to reroute the ship and find a way to take it home and win a championship. And by the way, if he's coming back healthy, if all signs are returning to Joel Embiid being full strength in himself for this Sixers team, do not count this team out yet. And to take a look at the standings specifically, I know I've mentioned this, but the Sixers continue to slide a little bit. They're currently sitting at the 8th seed, 37-30 after that victory against the Charlotte Hornets yesterday. That makes them tied for the Heat for that 7th seed, the Heat holding the tiebreaker there. And just half a game back against the Indiana Pacers. And at the time of myself recording this, the Sixers set to square off with the Miami Heat tonight, so that game will have some massive implications in terms of seeding, as both those teams tied with the same exact record as it currently stands. But the Pacers 38-30 right above it. The Orlando Magic continue to rip off wins. They're climbing these standings at a rate that I didn't quite expect. Now 40-28 sitting in that 5th seed. That's something where they're starting to build up some distance that I'm a little bit surprised about. They were a team that I absolutely could have seen these Sixers staying afloat and passing, but they look really good, and you got to kind of give them the respect that they are a talented team. Ultimately, the Sixers have to continue to worry about their business. There is still no signs of when Joel Embiid will return to the floor, no hardcore date or set timetable for that, but still the signs progressing in the right direction. So I'm feeling more optimistic than ever that Joel Embiid will be back on the Sixers team. They did get the victory over the Charlotte Hornets most recently. That was a necessary win, even if it was a little hard to come by. Brandon Miller getting ejected from the game and all the other factors that it was a little bit of a scare down the stretch. The bottom line is they did get the victory, and that's all that matters at this point. So whenever they have the opportunity to rip off wins, they have to find a way to do it. I don't feel particularly great about their odds against Miami Heat tonight, but that would be a huge win for this team, and one that I think could start to open the door for them climbing back to that 6th seed. I know that's asking a lot, that they still have a tough stretch of schedule, but signs are pointing up from the Sixers end of things. So the bottom line is I would love it if Kai Jones is able to make an appearance at the NBA level. Again, it seems like the Sixers do not have that in the cards, but they are eligible to sign him to a secondary 10-day contract. So maybe the game plan being see where he's at in the G League level for the first 10 days, try him out in the NBA level for the second 10 days, and then make a long-term decision for there. But none of this matters until Joel Embiid is back on the floor, and it seems like the timing is getting closer and closer to that. So my level of optimism is increasing with this team. I do want to hear from you guys in the comments. Make sure you're dropping your thoughts, hitting a like on this video, and subscribing to the channel to help this Digest family grow. Appreciate all you guys for tuning in, and I'll be talking with you next time. Peace.